Hello, and welcome to this presentation on an introduction to the Replacing Animals in Science strategy. What does this mean for you? Replacing Animal Research is a charity founded over 50 years ago, with a main focus on the replacement of animals in biomedical research and testing. We provide advice and training that supports the implementation of the replacement of animals in scientific research, scientific funding and publication, legislation and regulatory frameworks, and education, training, and CPD requirements. The purpose of this presentation is to provide a factual introduction to the government's Replacing Animals in Science strategy and highlight who and how we at Replacing Animal Research can support with the implementation of this plan. This includes any individual or organisation who will be affected by or has an interest in the strategy, including but not limited to those who work in bioscience research or doctoral training, members of an AWERB, and those who work in a research council, funding, publishing, regulatory frameworks or policy area that involves animal research. In this presentation, I will cover what the government strategy is and why we have it, some of the key commitments within the strategy that relate specifically to replacement, and finally, how we can help and support you with these commitments. So to begin, what is the phase-out plan and why do we have it? In 2024, in the lead-up to the general election, Labour committed to partnering with scientists, industry and civil society as we work towards the phasing out of animal testing. Then elected as the new government, the news followed in September 2024 that Lord Vallance, the Lord's Minister for Science, Innovation and Technology, would be leading on the development of a roadmap to phase out animal testing, alongside the Lord's Ministers from the Home Office and DEFRA, and alongside the Office for Life Sciences. Over 2025, the government met and consulted with a range of different stakeholders whilst developing the plan, including Replacing Animal Research, as part of a roundtable meeting with Lord Vallance and the Office for Life Science as a member of the Animal Protection and Welfare Stakeholder Group. Then, on the 11th of November 2025, the plan was published, titled Replacing Animals in Science, a strategy to support the development, validation and uptake of alternative methods. So what does the strategy contain? The document starts with some opening statements about the current use of animals in research and testing and the overall aims of the strategy. It's outlined at the start that the long-term vision is for a world where the use of animals in science is eliminated in all but exceptional circumstances, achieved by creating a research and innovation system that replaces animals with alternative methods wherever possible. It's also important to note that the strategy covers all areas of research and testing, including basic and applied research, regulatory testing, and other areas of research and testing that are carried out in the UK. The introduction also states that the strategy lays out steps that government will take over the next 5 years towards achieving this vision across the whole of the UK. The strategy has 6 overarching objectives outlined at the start of the strategy, which are: accelerate the replacement of animals in science to phase out their use, achieve equal or better research and testing outcomes using alternative methods, drive private investment in alternative methods to boost innovation and growth, improve regulatory confidence and acceptance of alternative methods, create infrastructure and partnerships to unlock value from UK data, and position the UK as a global leader in alternative methods. The main part of the strategy is outlining key commitments that will achieve these 6 objectives and the overarching aim of the plan. Throughout this presentation, I will cover some of the key commitments that relate to improving replacement and the legal frameworks around this. To start with, the government has pledged £75 million in funding towards the strategy. This includes funding into specific areas or projects and includes the establishment of a preclinical translational models hub, which will be supported by £30 million and is to be established by the end of 2026. The purpose of this is to bring together a range of different models such as data, AI, cell engineering, genomic technology and disease modelling capabilities, with the aim of increasing the scale of collaborative research and to create a pipeline of novel translational medicine models with increased productivity and fewer and less wasted resources. Secondly, there is increased government research funding going into the specific development and adoption of alternative methods for discovery research. This will also involve working with the relevant government departments and UKRI to create and support opportunities for investment, including through the National Centre for the 3 Rs. And finally, another £30 million is being pledged to establish a UK Centre for the Validation of Alternative Methods. This will serve a similar purpose to the European ECVAM and will coordinate a cross-sector network of labs and facilitate engagement across stakeholders to drive validation efforts that are necessary for the acceleration of regulatory acceptance and industry confidence in alternative methods. The next commitments are around replacement training and guidance. With the 3Rs being a legal requirement under the Animal Scientific Procedures Act 1986, and with replacement being the priority, there are several commitments around increased training and guidance in replacement, 3Rs more widely, and in non-animal methods that are key to this strategy. Two of these commitments are specific training, guidance and resources to support funding panels in promoting replacement and making informed decisions on alternative methods. Now, this is in the context of empowering reviewers to support the phasing in of alternative methods and promoting replacement. Also, providing foundational training for early career researchers in alternative methods, including 3Rs training for all PhD and early career scientists who are starting careers in using animals or alternative methods. This is to facilitate what they are calling a generational shift in knowledge of the 3Rs, to be able to build capacity to recognise and deliver future reductions in animal use, and this is aiming to be in place by the end of 2026. The next commitment is around accelerating the uptake of alternative methods through reform of the regulations around animals in science. Much of this work sits within the Home Office with the Animals in Science Regulation Unit, the Animals in Science Committee, and the Animals in Science Regulation Policy Unit. This includes ongoing work around ASRU's regulatory reform programme to improve performance and implementation of the legislation, and the work in commissioning the ASC to investigate and review specific topics that are a priority, such as improving leading practice in the 3Rs, like we saw in 2025, and best practice for AWERBs, which we should see coming up in 2026. The strategy outlines some future commitments in this area, which also highlight the importance of cross-departmental working to ensure that the strategy is fully implemented. Some of these commitments include commissioning the ASC to review and recommend corporate responsibility reporting expectations by establishments that use animals on their use of alternatives. DCIT will also work with the Home Office to review additional statistics collections, including things like the use of GA animals and guidance on efficient breeding practices, and on how the statistics can lead to further replacement opportunities. There is also a commitment to fully implement all the recommendations of the Rule Report by the end of 2026. The Rule Report was an independent report by Dr. Francis Rule, commissioned by the NC3Rs, entitled The Role and Review of Regulatory Approvals Processes for Animal Research in Supporting Implementation of the 3Rs. The report highlighted that replacement does not seem to be covered well by any of the review process. Many of the recommendations in the report are centred around ensuring replacement is robustly implemented and challenged across the review process. Some of the key recommendations are: funders should make use of scientific peer reviewers to ensure replacements are identified and implemented where appropriate. Funders could introduce more targeted questions and guidance for applicants to elicit information on replacement. Funders should be prepared to provide additional funding to allow grant holders to explore and validate new alternatives alongside their established methods, and facilitate dissemination by supporting labs to provide access to the technology and train others to use. Funders should be willing to share information on whether expert review has explicitly considered whether replacements are available. Establishments should ensure that their processes allow the use of animals to be challenged early in the research planning process, including AWERBs asking questions on whether and how an applicant has searched for information. And named information officers within an establishment should be well trained in approaches to search for information relating to the 3Rs and have time to support researchers to fulfil their responsibilities to look for alternatives. Implementation of these recommendations would improve the approvals process around animal research across the board and should ensure that animals won't be used where there is an alternative available, as is stated in the law. Following on from work in the Home Office, there is also a commitment to establish an Alternatives Methods Committee that will be overseen by the Animals in Science Committee. The purpose of this committee will be to provide independent, impartial and balanced advice on alternative methods. The strategy currently states that the committee will comprise of representatives from academia, industry, contact research organisations, NC3Rs and other relevant stakeholders in the development and application of alternative methods. To wrap up the commitments, another big commitment from the strategy was the inclusion of timelines and milestones around the phasing out of specific animal tests. The strategy includes a basket system, which categorises priorities for the targeted replacement of animal tests. These baskets are defined as Basket 1 being animal tests or models where replacement technology already exists and could be applied in all but exceptional circumstances. Basket 2 is animal tests or models where viable alternatives could be developed and adopted in the medium term. And Basket 3 is animal tests or models that focus on more complex endpoints, where using alternative methods are longer-term aims. Basket 1 contains commitments up to the end of 2027. The full list is included on the slide, but some examples include replacing animal models for skin irritation, eye irritation, and skin sensitization testing by the end of 2026, and replacing botulinum toxin batch potency testing by the end of 2027. Basket 2 is the more medium-term commitments. Again, you can find the full list on screen, but this includes tests such as replacing fish acute toxicity tests for chemicals by the end of 2028, and reducing the use of dogs and non-human primates in pharmacokinetic and cardiovascular studies by set percentages by 2030. Basket 3 is the longer-term aims and is currently much less populated than the other two baskets, currently only containing one test. This is to reduce the use of fish in assessing endocrine disruption by the end of 2035 by including validated alternative methods in UK regulatory guidance. As mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, at Replacing Animal Research, we provide advice and training that supports the replacement of animals in various different forums. We're keen to support you with the implementation of these commitments as the strategy develops. Firstly, a large part of our policy work is around strengthening replacement requirements in legislation and regulations. This includes work such as providing replacement expertise to the UK government, MPs and regulators. This can be through briefings and letters that highlight the need for robust replacement requirements and practical suggestions on how to achieve this, through submissions to calls for evidence from government departments such as the Animals in Science Committee on specific areas of interest, or sharing our resources with the relevant government departments that can go on to be added to the relevant guidance and resource packs. Next, improving transparency around animal use, with our main focus being that there is adequate transparency around the information and data that is collected under ASPA to better understand where and how animals are being used. By achieving this, it will be easier to determine where gaps in replacement exist and if replacement opportunities are being missed. Our work around this area includes improving accessibility of non-technical summaries, reviewing Section 24 of the Animal Scientific Procedures Act, and improving the data that is collected and published as part of the annual statistics of scientific procedures on living animals in Great Britain. Next, strengthening replacement implementation within ASPA frameworks. Our work in this area focuses mainly on improving project license applications to ensure that replacement is robustly searched for and evidenced. Our main call in this area is to implement improved questions to the replacement section of the license to allow for more structured and thorough answers on how replacement has been considered, as well as improved searching guidance for project license applicants to ensure that more detail is included, demonstrating how and where replacements were searched for. Similarly to this, our work towards strengthening review processes to ensure that replacement is being implemented. The improved questions and guidance within a project license application will also aid reviewers in ensuring that replacement has been robustly implemented. This in turn will make reviews of licenses more thorough. This leads me on to our other strands of work at Replacing Animal Research, education and research, and notably our work in replacement practice. To begin with, we have developed a resource called the Replacement Checklist. The Replacement Checklist helps researchers, reviewers, funders, and any other relevant stakeholder identify and assess what has been done to determine whether scientifically satisfactory replacement approaches exist in line with current legislation. It is a list of simple questions and prompts, allowing both researchers and reviewers of applications to know exactly what is required to demonstrate the replacement has been fulfilled under its legal requirement. Since launching, the checklist has been adopted across the UK, Ireland, and internationally, reaching over 60 animal-using institutions with an overwhelmingly positive response. The replacement checklist is the main tool that we use when conducting replacement training and advice, but we also have other training, guidance and resources available for institutions that can be provided alongside this. This includes our full Searching for Alternatives guide. This provides a detailed step-by-step guide on the basic principles of searching to help researchers find and identify information relevant to their specific area of interest. We are also able to provide support in other ways, whether that be additional training, providing expert input into embedding replacement into institutional strategies and processes, or input embedding replacement into education and training syllabus development. If you would like to find out more about our work, you can scan the QR code on the left to read our full policy approach, which contains a full breakdown of our areas of policy work. You can also sign up to receive policy updates from us through the same link. By scanning the QR code on the right, you can sign up to receive a free copy of our replacement checklist. You can also visit our website at www.replacinganimalresearch.org.uk to find out more about our work more generally. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this presentation. I hope you found it helpful for your area of work. We are keen to hear from you with any questions or thoughts around the government strategy. If you would like any further information or would like to reach out with any questions or requests for further details, you can email me directly at jessie@replacinganimalresearch.org.uk or email hello@replacinganimalresearch.org.uk. Thank you again very much for your time.